Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about respect, about self-worth. Life is full of people who will test you, people who will push you to your limits, not because they admire your strength, but because they think they can get away with it. And do you know why? It's because you let them. People take advantage when you lack clear boundaries because boundaries are the foundation of respect in any relationship. Without them, it becomes easy for others to overstep, to impose their will, and to disregard your needs and feelings. Setting boundaries is not just about telling others what you will or won't tolerate. It's about teaching them how to treat you. It's about making a statement that you value yourself enough to demand respect, even if it's uncomfortable at times. When boundaries are absent, people often interpret that as permission to act however they please. They may not even do it maliciously. It's human nature to push limits. Imagine a wide open field with no fences. Someone might wander in, unaware that they're trespassing. It's not until you set up a clear marker, a line that says, "This is mine," and you can't cross it, that people begin to understand your expectations. However, the responsibility to set those boundaries lies with you. No one will do it for you. Often, people who lack boundaries struggle with the fear of confrontation. They worry about upsetting others or causing conflict. They tell themselves that letting things slide is easier, less stressful. But what they don't realize is that by avoiding the discomfort of setting boundaries, they invite the far greater pain of being disrespected. For example, in professional settings, failing to set boundaries can lead to being overworked and undervalued. If you're always saying yes to extra tasks, staying late, or taking on responsibilities that aren't yours, you're teaching others that your time isn't valuable. Coworkers and managers may start to assume that you'll always pick up the slack. And over time, that assumption becomes their expectation. Soon you find yourself exhausted, frustrated, and resentful, all because you didn't say no when it mattered. In personal relationships, the absence of boundaries can lead to emotional drain. Friends, family, or partners might feel entitled to your time, energy, or resources. They may call you at all hours, expecting you to drop everything for them. They may demand your attention without considering your needs. And while helping others can be fulfilling, constantly putting yourself last takes a toll. You can't pour from an empty cup. Yet that's exactly what you're forced to do when you allow others to overstep your boundaries. What makes setting boundaries so challenging is the fear of how others will react. You might worry that people will see you as selfish or uncaring. You might fear that they'll be upset or even leave. But the truth is, the people who genuinely respect and care for you will also respect your boundaries. Those who don't are likely the ones who were taking advantage of you in the first place. Or, boundaries are a filter that separates the people who value you from those who only value what you can do for them. There's also a misconception that boundaries are about controlling others. They're not. Boundaries are about controlling your own actions and reactions. You can't force someone to respect your boundaries, but you can decide how to respond when they don't. For example, if someone consistently shows up late to meet you, your boundary might be, if you're more than 15 minutes late, I'll leave. That's not about changing their behavior, it's about taking control of your own. Learning to set boundaries is a process, and it often requires practice. Start small. If you're someone who struggles to say no, begin with low-stakes situations. Maybe a friend asks you to help with something, but you're already feeling overwhelmed. Politely decline and see how they react. Chances are the world won't end. Over time, you'll build the confidence to set boundaries in more challenging situations. It's also important to communicate your boundaries clearly. People can't respect what they don't understand. If you feel uncomfortable with something, say so. Be direct but respectful. For example, if a friend constantly borrows your belongings without asking, you might say, "I'd appreciate it if you could ask before taking something of mine." It's a simple statement, but it sets a clear expectation. Enforcing boundaries is equally important. Setting a boundary without following through is like putting up a fence with a wide open gate. People will continue to cross it because there are no consequences. If someone disregards your boundary, you need to address it. This doesn't mean being harsh or confrontational. It means standing firm in your expectations. If you told a coworker that you can't take on extra tasks, but they continue to delegate work to you, remind them of your boundary. If necessary, escalate the issue to a manager. It's worth noting that some people will test your boundaries repeatedly, especially if they've benefited from your lack of them in the past. They might try to guilt you, manipulate you, or argue that you're being unreasonable. This is why self-awareness and confidence are so important. When you know your worth, it becomes easier to stand your ground. You understand that setting boundaries isn't about being selfish. It's about protecting your well-being. Another key aspect of setting boundaries is recognizing when they need to change. Life is fluid, and so are relationships. The boundaries you set with someone today might not be relevant a year from now. For instance, a new romantic relationship might require more flexibility as you get to know each other. But as the relationship progresses, firmer boundaries might become necessary. Be willing to reevaluate and adjust your boundaries as needed. It's also crucial to acknowledge that boundaries aren't just about what you won't tolerate. They're also about what you expect and need. For example, in a friendship, your boundary might be, I need honesty and open communication. By stating this, you're not just saying what you won't accept. You're also making it clear what you value. This shifts the focus from being solely about conflict to being about mutual respect and understanding. End quote. Boundaries also serve as a form of self-care. They allow you to prioritize your mental, emotional, and physical health. They give you the space to focus on what truly matters to you, whether that's your career, your passions, or your relationships. Without boundaries, it's easy to lose sight of your own needs because you're so busy catering to everyone else's. By setting and maintaining boundaries, you're sending a message to yourself and to others that you matter, that your needs and feelings are just as important as anyone else's. The beauty of boundaries is that they empower you. They give you control over your own life. When you set boundaries, you're no longer a passive participant in your relationships. You're an active participant, choosing who and what you allow into your life. This doesn't mean you'll never face challenges or conflicts, but it does mean you'll face them from a place of strength and self-respect. When people play you for a fool, it often stems from their perception that you lack confidence or awareness. They see an opportunity to manipulate, deceive, or take advantage of your kindness, and they exploit it for their own gain. This behavior can manifest in many forms, whether it's in relationships, at work, or even in casual social interactions. The underlying issue lies in the imbalance of power and respect, and understanding why it happens is the first step toward protecting yourself from being treated this way. One of the main reasons people play you for a fool is because you may have a trusting nature. Trust is a beautiful quality, but when it's given too freely or without discernment, it can leave you vulnerable. Some individuals recognize your willingness to trust and use it to manipulate or deceive. They count on your good intentions, assuming you'll overlook their motives or actions because you believe in the best in people. While trust is important, it must be balanced with caution and awareness. Learning to evaluate someone's intentions before fully trusting them can save you from being taken advantage of. Another factor is the fear of confrontation. Many people who are played for fools avoid addressing issues directly because they're uncomfortable with conflict. They'd rather keep the peace than risk upsetting someone, even when it's clear they're being mistreated. Unfortunately, this avoidance sends the message that you're an easy target. People may assume they can take advantage of you without facing consequences. Confrontation doesn't have to mean aggression or hostility. It can simply mean standing up for yourself with confidence and clarity. When you communicate your boundaries and expectations, you make it clear that you won't tolerate being treated poorly. Low self-esteem is another reason people might find themselves in situations where others take advantage. When you don't value yourself, it becomes harder to recognize when someone else isn't valuing you either. You might excuse their behavior, rationalize their actions, or convince yourself that you deserve to be treated this way. This lack of self-worth creates a cycle where others sense your insecurities and exploit them to their advantage. Building self-esteem is a crucial step in breaking this pattern. When you recognize your worth, you're less likely to accept disrespect or manipulation from others. Some people play you for a fool because they perceive you as overly accommodating. Being helpful, kind, and generous are admirable traits, but when taken to an extreme, they can make you a target. People may see your willingness to go the extra mile as an opportunity to take advantage. They might pile responsibilities onto you, knowing you'll handle them without complaint. They might expect you to bail them out of difficult situations, relying on your kindness to save them. While helping others is important, it's equally important to set boundaries. You don't have to say yes to everything or everyone. Learning to prioritize your own needs and say no when necessary can protect you from being exploited. Another key reason people might play you for a fool is their ability to recognize your empathy. Empathetic individuals often put themselves in others' shoes, trying to understand and support those around them. While this is a valuable trait, it can also make you susceptible to manipulation. Some people exploit empathy by playing the victim, exaggerating their struggles, or creating false narratives to gain your sympathy. They know you'll be more likely to help them or forgive their actions if you believe they're struggling. To protect yourself, it's important to balance empathy with discernment. Ask yourself whether someone's actions align with their words and whether their story truly adds up before offering your support. People may also play you for a fool if you lack assertiveness. Assertiveness is the ability to express your needs, desires, and boundaries clearly and confidently. Without it, others might assume they can take advantage of you without facing resistance. They might dominate conversations, make decisions for you, or disregard your opinions because they see you as passive or indecisive. Developing assertiveness doesn't mean becoming aggressive. It means learning to speak up for yourself in a way that's respectful but firm. When you're assertive, you show others that you're not someone to be underestimated or manipulated. Another common reason people take advantage of others is opportunism. Some individuals are simply driven by self-interest, always looking for ways to benefit themselves at someone else's expense. They may not have any particular issue with you personally. They simply see you as a means to an end. Whether it's gaining access to your resources, leveraging your skills, or using your connections, opportunists prioritize their own goals over your well-being. Recognizing this behavior requires paying attention to patterns. If someone only reaches out to you when they need something or consistently takes without giving, it's a sign they may be exploiting you. In some cases, people play you for a fool because they misinterpret your kindness as weakness. They might assume that because you're polite, accommodating, or forgiving, you won't stand up for yourself. This misconception can lead them to push boundaries or test your limits, assuming you won't push back. To counteract this, it's important to show that kindness is a choice, not a vulnerability. You can be kind and still enforce your boundaries. You can be forgiving and still hold people accountable. When others see that your kindness comes with strength, they're less likely to take advantage. Some people may also play you for a fool because they envy your qualities or achievements. Instead of celebrating your success, they try to undermine it by manipulating or belittling you. They may spread rumors, create drama, or try to make you doubt yourself. This behavior often stems from their own insecurities. They feel threatened by your confidence, talent, or accomplishments and seek to diminish you to elevate themselves. Recognizing this dynamic can help you avoid internalizing their negativity. Instead of letting their actions affect your self-esteem, focus on surrounding yourself with supportive, positive people who celebrate your growth. Ultimately, the key to preventing others from playing you for a fool lies in self-awareness and self-respect. When you know your worth, set clear boundaries, and communicate assertively, you send a message that you won't tolerate manipulation or disrespect. You become more discerning about who you allow into your life and more confident in addressing issues when they arise. While you can't control how others behave, you can control how you respond. And that response sets the tone for how you're treated. It's also important to remember that not everyone who takes advantage of you does so intentionally. Sometimes people are unaware of how their actions affect others. In these cases, addressing the issue directly and calmly can lead to positive change. For example, if a friend frequently borrows money without paying it back, having an honest conversation about your expectations can help them understand your perspective. They may not have realized how their actions were impacting you, and your willingness to address the issue can strengthen your relationship. On the other hand, some people are deliberate in their actions and will continue to exploit others as long as they're allowed to. In these situations, it's essential to recognize when a relationship is no longer healthy or beneficial. Cutting ties with someone who consistently disrespects your boundaries, manipulates your emotions, or takes advantage of your kindness can be difficult, but it's often necessary for your well-being. Surrounding yourself with people who value and respect you is crucial for building healthy, fulfilling relationships. By understanding why people might play you for a fool and taking proactive steps to protect yourself, you can create a life where you're respected, valued, and empowered. Finally, sometimes the reason people play you for a fool lies in your silence when you should speak up. When you allow things to slide, when you let disrespect go unchecked, you give people permission to continue their behavior. Silence can be misinterpreted as acceptance. It's not about starting fights or being confrontational. It's about choosing to stand up for yourself when it matters. Your voice has power, and when you use it with conviction, it commands respect. The moment you begin to express your thoughts and draw your boundaries clearly, you shift the narrative. People start to see that you're someone who values yourself and won't tolerate being treated unfairly. Speaking up doesn't mean being aggressive or rude. It means being firm and honest about what you will and will not accept. Another reason people might take advantage of you is when they see inconsistency in your actions. When you say one thing but do another, it creates confusion about where you stand. For instance, you might tell someone you're unavailable, but later you agree to help because you feel bad about saying no. That inconsistency signals to others that your boundaries are flexible and can be pushed. It's crucial to align your words with your actions. If you set a boundary, honor it. If you make a promise, keep it. Consistency not only builds trust, but also reinforces your self-respect. When people see that your actions match your words, they're less likely to test your limits. Some individuals exploit others because they sense a lack of confidence. Confidence isn't about being loud or dominant. It's about believing in yourself and your abilities. When you carry yourself with confidence, you exude an energy that tells others you're not to be underestimated. On the flip side, when you doubt yourself or hesitate to take a stand, it can invite others to try and take control. Confidence isn't something you're born with, it's something you build. Start by acknowledging your strengths and celebrating your achievements, no matter how small. Each step you take towards self-assurance makes it harder for others to manipulate or undermine you. Empathy can also make you a target. While being empathetic is a beautiful quality, it can sometimes be used against you. People who know you're empathetic might exaggerate their struggles or create sob stories to gain your sympathy. They'll play on your emotions, knowing you'll feel compelled to help them, even at your own expense. To guard against this, it's important to balance empathy with discernment. Ask yourself whether someone's actions align with their words. Are they consistently asking for help without making any effort to improve their situation? Do their stories seem plausible, or are there inconsistencies? Trust your instincts. Being empathetic doesn't mean you have to help everyone who asks. It's okay to prioritize your well-being and set limits on how much you're willing to give. People also play you for a fool when they see that you're overly concerned with pleasing others. Being a people pleaser often stems from a desire to be liked or accepted. You might say yes to things you don't want to do, avoid expressing your true feelings, or go out of your way to make others happy, even when it's at your own expense. While it's natural to want positive relationships, sacrificing your own needs to please others can backfire. It sends the message that your feelings and boundaries are secondary, which can lead to being taken for granted. Learning to say no without guilt is a powerful skill. It shows that you respect yourself enough to prioritize your well-being, and it teaches others to respect you too. Manipulators often target individuals who lack clarity about their goals and priorities. When you're uncertain about what you want or where you're headed, it's easier for others to steer you in directions that benefit them, not you. Clarity gives you focus and purpose, making it harder for others to derail you. Take time to reflect on what matters most to you, your values, ambitions, and boundaries. Note your clarity patterns. Find similarities and lean in. Once you're clear about these, it becomes easier to recognize when someone's actions are at odds with your priorities. You can then make decisions that align with your goals rather than being swayed by others' agendas. Sometimes people take advantage because they sense a fear of loss. They know you're afraid of losing a relationship, a job, or an opportunity, so they use that fear to manipulate you. They might make you feel that if you don't comply with their demands, you'll miss out on something valuable. This fear can paralyze you, making you more willing to tolerate mistreatment just to avoid the perceived loss. Overcoming this requires recognizing your own worth and understanding that no relationship or opportunity is worth sacrificing your dignity and self-respect. When you operate from a place of self-assurance, you're less likely to let fear dictate your actions. People might also play you for a fool because they see you as overly forgiving. Forgiveness is a powerful and healing act, but when it's given too freely or without accountability, it can be mistaken for weakness. Some individuals exploit your forgiving nature by repeating the same mistakes or offenses, knowing you'll always let it slide. Forgiveness doesn't mean allowing someone to continue disrespecting you. It's about releasing resentment for your own peace of mind, while also setting boundaries to prevent further harm. When you forgive but also hold others accountable, you show that you value yourself enough to demand better treatment. A lack of boundaries is another reason people might play you for a fool. Boundaries are essential for healthy relationships, yet many people struggle to set them. Without clear boundaries, others may take liberties with your time, energy, and emotions. They may assume you'll always be available to meet their needs, no matter how unreasonable the request. Setting boundaries isn't selfish. It's necessary for protecting your well-being. Start by identifying what you're comfortable with and what you're not. Communicate these boundaries calmly but firmly, and don't be afraid to enforce them when they're crossed. People who respect you will honor your boundaries, while those who don't may not deserve a place in your life. Finally, people play you for a fool when they underestimate your strength. They might see your kindness, trust, or patience as signs of vulnerability, not realizing that these qualities require immense inner strength. Your strength lies in your ability to rise above challenges, to learn from experiences, and to grow into the person you're meant to be. By embracing your power and refusing to let others diminish it, you can reclaim control over your life and relationships. People might play you for a fool when they recognize your desire for approval. Seeking validation from others can sometimes lead to compromising your values or boundaries to fit in or be liked. When you're overly concerned about how others perceive you, it becomes easier for manipulative individuals to take advantage of your willingness to please. They may use your need for validation to get what they want, knowing you're less likely to push back. Learning to value your own opinion of yourself over others' opinions builds inner strength. It allows you to act in alignment with your true self rather than bending to meet someone else's expectations. End quote. Manipulators often target those who are overly empathetic or generous. While kindness is a virtue, it can sometimes be exploited by those who see it as a weakness. They may rely on your unwillingness to say no or your fear of letting someone down to get what they want. Setting healthy boundaries doesn't mean you're unkind. It means you're choosing to protect your energy and prioritize your well-being. Those who truly value you will respect your boundaries and won't ask you to overextend yourself for their benefit. Another reason people might play you for a fool is if they perceive that you avoid confrontation at all costs. While it's natural to want to avoid conflict, consistently shying away from difficult conversations or standing up for yourself can signal that you're an easy target.